as one, a legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we roar. Detroit Lions will rise, with a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right. Good morning. It is Friday. It is the Friday before the big matchup of Sunday Night Football, the last game of the season, where your Detroit Lions are going to be hosting the Minnesota Vikings in what is the most epic game I think we have ever witnessed as Lions fans, or will witness as Lions fans Sunday night. Probably going to be the biggest, most watched game of the season, and I am definitely looking forward to it. So we're going to talk about a few things this morning with NFL news and Lions news, of course. And let me give you a little bit of a heads up. So we're going to be talking about Pro Bowl roster for just a moment. Black Monday is right around the corner. This is not a great day for NFL coaches around the league. There's been a few that have already been let go, but who's kind of waiting in the wings, and where is Ben Johnson going to go? Myles Garrett, he's got bigger things on his mind than Sack Crown. We'll talk about that. Amon-Ra St. Brown has a few words, or a few changes, I should say, that he would like in the NFL. That's all coming up next here on NFL News. As far as Lions news, TJ Hockenson returns to Detroit. Is this the revenge type game that we're expecting to get from him? We'll talk about that here in just a moment. And can either team win as a number 5 seed? It's never been done. There's a first for everything. Well, let's just hope it's the Lions that have that opportunity to remain the 1 seed. But if it is the 5 seed, this might be the first time in NFL history that a team makes it to the Super Bowl and wins. The path to the Super Bowl will be discussed this morning. We've got a little bit here on Sam LaPorta. Of course, we'll update injury reports, roster moves, and Anne's alone weighing the risks of playing on Sunday night. We'll do all that in just a few moments when we get back from a message from one of our sponsors.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights, with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs, with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from uperlights.com.
Okay, I just saw one of your questions in there, too, wondering if Eric is back yet. So, Eric, I think he gets back tomorrow. He spent a nice full week in Santa Clara, San Fran area, hanging out with his wife. Much-deserved vacation. Obviously got to witness the win there in Santa Clara versus the 49ers. And then he's going to turn right around and go to Detroit. So we'll catch up on Sunday at the game, and then we should be back on Monday morning. At least I should be back on Monday morning. I think I'm going to plan on just staying in Detroit Sunday night and not drive all the way back home so I can try to get some rest. So we'll try to pull off the show Monday morning. At least I will. And then maybe Eric should be back by Tuesday. So it's going to be fast and furious around here. This is going to be... It's going to be a very exciting time for all of us. Obviously, this is the last game. Soak it all in. Enjoy it. Win or lose, or win or win, I should say. It's a meaningful game to many of us to be where we are sitting right now after all these years, all these seasons, these decades of watching the Lions. To be honest, I mean, pathetic team for many, many, many decades. Could never really get anything right. And when we had good players assembled, it seems like we kind of rushed them out the door too early because we couldn't we couldn't, surround them, with either good coaching or adjacently good players. That's all changed. It is a different scene in Motown. And it's a scene that I'm really enjoying right now. And I know it seems kind of weird that, when you talk about it every day, it kind of removes some of the emotion or some of the love, I think, for capturing what's happened this season as just a bystander. Like if I wasn't talking about him every day, I think my excitement or my feelings for the team would be different. I really do. But I got to do this every day, right? I've made a commitment to do this every day. And it kind of takes, I don't want to say it takes the enjoyment out because I still find enjoyment, but it's different doing this versus being just a fan, if that makes sense. So, and I wouldn't want to trade it for the world. I think this is the best community that I've ever been a part of. There's some really great people that I've met virtually and in person. And I can't thank you guys enough for being a part of this community and doing such a great job. So, all right, let's get into this NFL news. This one I thoroughly enjoyed. This first topic, Patrick Mahomes. So, Patrick Mahomes left off the Pro Bowl roster. This one, I mean, I had a little bit of a chuckle here, but I really enjoyed this one because I can't stand the Chiefs right now. They've just been too good for too long. It seems like they get all the help in the world from the refs. I'm not going to blame everything on the refs, but it just appears that way. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. And, let's be honest, Mahomes, he's just had this knack of pulling out, these crazy, miraculous, victories. It doesn't make any sense to me how he keeps doing it over and over and over again. So this season, it was no different. The Chiefs have just found ways to win that are not, in my opinion, normal. Yes, there's a lot that can be blamed on the refs for a lot of these wins. But when the league announced the Pro Bowl roster and Mahomes was left off, I couldn't help but chuckle because this told me that, maybe people are getting sick of Patrick Mahomes, or maybe the league has a different view on Patrick Mahomes this year. It can't all be about stats. But they put Joe Burrow above Patrick Mahomes. And to be honest, I mean, his stats, they're verified, right? They're legit. He's had a great season, even though his team hasn't had the greatest of seasons. But for the first time in the past 7 seasons, Patrick Mahomes will not be on the Pro Bowl roster. And the AFC will be represented in the Pro Bowl by Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. Hopefully, Patrick Mahomes has mentioned some there. I don't even know where he's at as far as the voting, if he's a 4th or a 5th alternate or something, you know what I mean, or 2nd or 3rd alternate. Trust me, I'd rather see Patrick Mahomes in the Pro Bowl than in the Super Bowl, to be honest with you. So, kind of just made my day a little bit to see that Patrick Mahomes is regressing a little bit this season. But hey, they're 15-1, and he's not on the Pro Bowl. Or he's not in the Pro Bowl. And the other reason why that made me feel a little bit better as a Lions fan is because of what happened with Kirby. This team, or the Kirby in this team deserved what they got as far as the Pro Bowl votes and how many players we have going into the Pro Bowl. And the Pro Bowl is great for notoriety, right? It doesn't mean anything other than that. It helps these guys pay. And that's really what they want the Pro Bowl for. Yeah, they do some fun, games now, but it's not the same as what it used to be. It's a meaningless game. But to them, it means something because they get a bump in pay. It also, shows that they're well loved as well as one of the best in the league. But do you really need a Pro Bowl to, satisfy your hunger for being one of the best in the league? I'd say no. I would say the All-Pro probably means more. And quite honestly, winning a Super Bowl, that's the best that it can get. And I'm glad that Kirby isn't taking this, the wrong way, and he's just focused on the Super Bowl. So I'd rather see him focused on that anyway, because that's where we want to be this season. Nobody cares about the Pro Bowl unless you're a player that wants that extra pay. I'm sorry. Derek Lou says you can't hear me? Can nobody hear me? Let me see if I've got to make an adjustment here. Hold on. Oh yeah, there we go. Must have lost some volume last night when I was on Scolders and Spice. Sometimes when you go to these different platforms, your mic gets messed with a little bit on the back end. If you guys haven't had an opportunity to watch that episode from last night, so I was on Scolders and Spice with Sally. Riley O'Brien was able to join us last night too. Actually, I was invited, through Riley. He's still a little bit under the weather. He needed some backup, but we had a great conversation, and a lot of Lions fans showed up. So shout out to all you that did, and it was a good time, man. You guys didn't get too crazy, so it was a good time. And big shout out to Casey for the big donation to their channel, and a big shout out to Jared Eisenlohr this morning. So the fantasy league that he put on for Rocked On Cancer Foundation came away with some funds, and we got a deposit last night. So big shout out to Jared last night for following through on his promise to the Rocked On Cancer Foundation and stepping up in a big way. So I really appreciate all of his work this season and thinking about us. Not only does he put up, a large sum of money to be in those leagues, but it takes a lot to manage, and he did a great job. So big shout out to everybody that has donated last year and this year to the Rocked On Cancer Foundation. Okay, so sorry about the audio. My apologies. I think we should be good to go now. I'm not going to rehash everything I just did. We'll move on to the second topic this morning. All right, so Black Monday. It is coming. It comes every season. Who's in, who's out, what are the changes? I'm not going to get into all of them this morning, but there's an article here that I came across late this morning, and it highlighted a few things. But number one, right away, Mike Vrabel. He has interest in interviewing now for the Jets position as head coach. So to me, that's an interesting fit. Having Mike Vrabel back in the league as a head coach, I don't think that's a bad thing. So interesting to see if he goes there. Obviously, this is Aaron Rodgers' last season. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to go into another season with another head coach. And who knows, probably everybody underneath the sun is going to be changed, in New York as far as coaches. I doubt that Aaron Rodgers comes back next year. Glad to see that Kirby kind of put him out of the NFC North, right? And helped him finish his career the right way and made that transition between the Packers used to run it all, and now it runs through Detroit. And it's going to stay that way this Sunday. But anyway, the early days of the Jets head coaching search have connected the team with former head coaches like Rex Ryan and Ron Rivera. And now Mike Vrabel has thrown his hat in the ring. But before we assume that this means the franchise is looking for someone with previous head coaching experience, it may be possible that they hire just somebody that has a ton of experience on the defensive side and somebody with great experience on the offensive side as far as coordinator, and may go after a young, unproven coach. Kind of what, happened with Sean McVay and the Rams. They paired, what Wade Phillips was paired with Sean McVay early on in his day. And I think that really helped Sean McVay learn a lot. Obviously, they had great success. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they do. But there's another name that was thrown in the hat. Detroit Lions defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is considered as a very early favorite in this connection to New York. Glenn could be a Jet within a few weeks. Now, I forget what the rules are as far as when they can start to interview coaches, but I'm hoping, just like Ben Johnson said yesterday, his eyes are on the prize, man. He really doesn't want anything to do with it. He wants to focus on the job that he has now, and that is getting this team to a Super Bowl. And this is one of the rules that I wish the NFL would change. There is no rush. There is zero rush to put in a head coach between now and the end of the Super Bowl. I don't think that any coaches on a current team should ever be spoken to about a job until they are done coaching for that year. When they have coached their last game and they are available, I think that that's what makes the most sense. Why do you want to interrupt their game planning? You know, you're putting these guys on a plane. They're traveling back and forth, maybe a day or two. And that takes time away from the team. It takes time away from their game planning. And if they deny, not going to take an opportunity to interview, well, they might miss out on a head coaching position versus going to a Super Bowl had they just stayed in their position and got themselves prepared and the team prepared. So I think the NFL needs to seriously look at this. I think it's the stupidest thing that the NFL has done is allowed teams to interview during the process of playoffs. I don't know the exact rule of when it can happen, but I know it's going to start happening within the next week or two. Some other names that have popped up. Obviously, Tennessee Titans were excited about Brian Callahan a year ago, but people familiar with the team are thinking that Callahan, would soon interview. Knowing that Callahan would soon interview at the homes of both Arthur Blank and David Tepper, and with a shortage proven of offensive candidates on the market, Tennessee zeroed in on the former Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator pretty quickly. Now, as some of the other coaches who interviewed felt at the time that a 3-13 season 1 year later, it might be time to move on. Let's see. Other teams that were mentioned here. So mentioning the Lions again with Ben Johnson, not named a candidate for Chicago. I found that interesting. And the Jacksonville Jaguars is the team that is expected to make a heavy run at Ben Johnson. I'm cool with that. I don't want to see Ben end up in the North. I really don't. I'm cool with that if he ends up in Jacksonville, I think it's a great opportunity for him. He's got a few pieces to the puzzle already made for him on the offensive side of the football, and I really think that he could probably turn it around fairly quickly. Some of the other quick notes, Brian Dable, does he deserve a chance to come back to New York? The team is very light on talent, but the rookies who have showed promise, including Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy Jr., they both have each eclipsed 1,000 scrimmage yards this season. Now, for me, I don't know. I don't know the answer here. The other question is Mike McCarthy. Could he find some common ground on an extension with Dallas, or is Mike McCarthy going to be available in short order? So I look for a couple of those possibilities to happen in New York. And then you've got the Las Vegas Raiders, Giants, New England Patriots. They all go into the weekend with the big picture questions to answer as far as what they're going to be doing here in the next week or so. So Black Monday is never fun for the NFL as far as, coaches having to play this carousel game, if you will. Find it interesting. Every year it seems like there's 5, 6, 7 teams that are looking for coaches. Oh, gotcha. Date. We're off on the date. I'm talking to you from yesterday. I'm able to read the future, right? When the date's off. There you go. Okay, next up, Myles Garrett. So, a lot of talk with Myles Garrett possibly wanting to leave the Browns. Honestly, I don't think it happens. I think there's a lot that has to happen here for that to happen. But he wants to play spoiler. He would rather mess up the Ravens' division title hopes than earn a sack crown. That is the true definition of competitive spirit. He can't stand the Ravens that much that he would rather play spoiler. So heading into Saturday's showdown against the Ravens, the Browns edge rusher Myles Garrett is more focused on winning and potentially ruining the rival shot at an AFC North title than the sack crown. Now, the Ravens obviously have the easiest opportunity here going into Week 18 to win the crown. That has to be the easiest matchup. But it's another team that, has to deal with it here in Week 18. According to Garrett, he said this. He said, I'd rather upset them and mess up their playoff hopes. And if the sack title comes along with it, great. Definitely going to do what I can to disrupt and take number 8, Lamar Jackson, out of the game as much as possible. If that comes along with it, outstanding. But at the end of the day, I want to win. Garrett also went on to say, he was asked a question about notching 5.5 sacks against Jackson during his career. And he said those are the hardest out of his 102.5 sacks that Lamar Jackson was the hardest to tackle, the hardest to sack. He said, absolutely, it's not even close. There are definitely some of the other special cats at the quarterback position who are shifty. I mean, Patrick Mahomes himself, he has great contact balance, but I mean, Lamar has that. But he also has speed. He has quickness. He's shifty. So he has that tremendous running ability, and he can throw the ball pretty much to anyone on the field right now. So Myles Garrett is honed in, man. He's locked on to Lamar this weekend, and he knows it's going to be a tough sled to get this sack title going up against Lamar as one of the hardest to sack in the league. So interesting that he'd rather play spoiler. I love it. I love it. Next up here, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Making NFL news. Go figure. So Amon-Ra St. Brown has very similar thoughts to what I said yesterday on the show. And before I really get into what he had said and what he's hoping for, I found it really funny that I mentioned this yesterday on the show, on the morning show, that maybe in the future, the NFL would look at changing up the division or the rules if the NFC North would continue to put 3 teams in the playoffs, which I understand. I know it's not something that happens very often. And honestly, it would probably have to take many, many, many seasons of that happening for a change of some sort to happen with the NFL. It's not frequent that, you see 2 14-2 teams going into the last week. But what if? What if it continues to happen? What is the NFL going to do when you have a 14-2 team that ends up as a 5th seed? Doesn't make any sense. It's definitely not what should be happening, you would think. But hey, the rules are the rules, right? So Amon-Ra, he spoke up about this. And I'm just going to read this article verbatim here from Vito Churko, where he says the Lions and the Vikings are set to make NFL history when they square off with one another on Sunday night. With 14 wins each, the Week 18 matchup will feature the most combined wins by any 2 teams in a regular season game in league history. The previous record of 25 total wins belongs to 2 matchups from the past. A season finale tilt between Tom Brady and Eli Manning. That was the 2007 Patriots and Giants. And a Week 16 contest from the 2005 season between the Seattle Seahawks and the Indianapolis Colts. Now, despite the NFL record 28 combined wins between Dan Campbell's squad and Kevin O'Connell's, the loser of the highly anticipated 2024 regular season finale will begin its playoff journey on the road as the NFC's number 5 seed. Additionally, it will clash with the winner of the NFC South, either a 10-win Buccaneers team or a 9-win Falcons squad in the wild card round of the postseason. Detroit Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, like many fans and pundits, is not a fan of a 14-win team starting the playoffs away from home. Quote, I think the rule should be changed. This is what Amon-Ra said. Obviously, if you win the division, you should obviously make a playoff spot. But having a 14-win team having to go on the road is kind of crazy. I don't make the rules. Hopefully we can get a win and get home field advantage, end quote. Now, with the present injury-ravaged, Detroit Lions and this playoff opening bye that we desperately need, it would certainly come in handy for St. Brown and the Detroit Lions if there was some sort of a rule change here that made sure that a 14-win team doesn't end up a 5th seed. What does it mean? I don't know. How do you fix it? I don't think you can. The next quote here is, I think it would be big. We have a lot of injuries, obviously, but just to be able to get some rest, I think would be nice. But either way, I feel like we'll be fine, whether it's going on the road or having a bye week and playing at home. I think we're built for either or, end quote. And then he went on to say that we have the best fans in the world to help us if we're at home. And if we weren't at home, we've been pretty good on the road this year. So either way, I think we'll be fine, but we would love to have home field advantage in the playoffs. I think it's huge. right? Having home field advantage is big, but the Lions have shown that they can win on the road. They're 8-0, undefeated on the road. We actually have our only 2 losses at home this season. But he's right. It's kind of odd staring down the playoff scenario with a 14-win team as the 5th seed. And I'm going to back this up with a little bit more information here about what does it mean to be a 5th seed in the playoffs. Has anyone ever made a Super Bowl? What are the odds? I did a little digging. We're going to talk about that next. Big shout out to Michael Garrett. $5 dono says the Tampa Bay loss early in the season shows why every game is important. Exactly right. That is a game that we should not have lost. Tim Fox says contact the NFL with the Bountygate. Let me clarify Bountygate. So utilizing SEO keywords in Bountygate, we know is going to work, right? Because we don't know for sure if the 49ers were paid to do what they did in that game. We don't know if they were, given any sort of incentive to do what they did in that game. To me, Bountygate just means, to be honest, to me, what it means is that you're just trying to do something intentional to injure somebody intentionally like the Saints did. The difference is the Saints were paid to do it, allegedly, according to the records that came out that season in the legal process. So for this video that I did, it was more to highlight the intent to injure and what I felt was intent to injure. And I'm surprised we haven't seen or heard anything yet from the NFL as far as any fines that are getting handed out. Maybe it rolls into next week. Who knows? Maybe they don't want a bunch of headlines this week before the final week of the regular season. Either way, it made me sick to my stomach, man. Absolutely made me sick to my stomach. All right, let's get into what does it mean to be the 5th seed heading into the playoffs. So can either team get to the Super Bowl as a 5 seed? Here's what's funny. We're not funny. Being the number 5 seed is the hardest path toward the Super Bowl, as the only number 5 seed to make the Super Bowl were the 2007 Giants. The last number 4 seed to make a Super Bowl was the 2012 Ravens, while the last number 3 seed to make the Super Bowl was the 2006 Colts. The 2003 Panthers are the only NFC team to reach a Super Bowl as a number 3 seed. There have been only 3 number 3 seeds to have reached an NFC championship game. The last number 6 seed to reach the Super Bowl was the 2010 Packers. One of 2 number 6 seeds to win a championship ever. A wild card team making the Super Bowl is stronger than ever right now, with both the Vikings and the Lions sitting at 14-2. But the odds are still in favor of a team with a first-round bye making the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, teams with a first-round bye have made the Super Bowl at an incredible clip of 79.3% of the time. So the question is, why would it be different for this season for the Lions or the Vikings? Why would it be different? When has there been a 14-win team as a wild card? I don't think it's been ever. Both of these teams to be winning a division, or would be winning a division in any other division right now, besides, the Chiefs division. They would win every other division in the NFL. And like I said earlier, if this continues, would the NFL look at any sort of changes? Would they need to restructure the conferences or the divisions a little bit? Or the way that the seeding is done? I think the only way that you can change it is, the best record available, is the 1 seed, but then they give you, the other seeds based on your record as well, right? It's not so much about you winning the division and then you're given a seed. It's based on record. So I just don't understand why. Well, of course, if you win your division, you're going to get the 2, 3, or 4 seed, right? Or the 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed. I don't see why that is normal. Like, I don't see why that's right. If you have the best record or the second best record, you should get the 2 seed. If you have the third best record, you should get the 3 seed. But if you don't win your division, you are automatically a 5th, 6th, or 7th seed. That has never made any sense to me. And it definitely doesn't make any more sense to me now that we're witnessing what the Lions are doing and what the Vikings are doing. So the path to the Super Bowl, it's not easy being a 5th seed. It's never been done. But I will say this, if the Lions end up the 5th seed, they're going to be the first team to go and win a Super Bowl. I have that much confidence of them on the road this season. And clearly, they've done an excellent job, finishing 8-0 this season. They did a great job last season on the road. But the playoff picture right now, in looking at the seeding for the NFC playoffs, is this simple. Winner of the Lions and Vikings game would be the 1 seed. The Philadelphia Eagles are the 2. And then number 3 is the Los Angeles Rams or the Bucs. Now, if the Rams clinch the number 3 seed, it has to be because they've won versus the Seahawks and or a Buccaneers loss to the Saints this weekend. The Buccaneers would clinch the number 3 seed simply with a win over the Saints and a Rams loss to the Seahawks. So those are your options for the 3. It's Bucs or Rams. Now, Los Angeles Rams, Tampa Bay Bucks, or Atlanta Falcons could be the number 4 seed. And that's if the Rams clinch with a loss to the Seahawks and a Buccaneers win over the Saints. The Buccaneers would clinch with the number 4 seed with a win over the Saints and a Rams win over the Seahawks, or a Buccaneers loss to the Saints and a Falcons loss to the Panthers. Now, the Falcons would be number 4 if they win versus the Panthers and a Buccaneers loss to the Saints. Now, if the Lions beat the Vikings, right, they'll finish with a 15-2 record and earn the 1 seed in the NFC. And that means that they would get the bye week, right? The first week, they'd get the bye week during the wild card round. And then the other 3 division winners would host the 3 wild card teams. The lowest seeded team remaining of the 3 winners would come to Detroit for the divisional round. So we could still get a home game. That's the good news of all of this if we end up the 5th seed. So if all 3 division winners, the number 2, the number 3, and the number 4 seeds, won their first round games, the Lions would host the number 4 seed. And if you go back and look at who could be the 4 seed, it's going to be LA, Tampa, or the Falcons. That's what it's looking like right now. Not the teams that I wanted to see again this year. Now, if one wild card team won, the Lions would host that team. If multiple wild card teams won, the Lions would host the one with the worst seed. So the Lions are still going to have an opportunity to host a divisional game, even if they end up the 5th seed. So then, with a win at the divisional round, the Lions would already be in the NFC Championship game, which they would again host at Ford Field. So in total, their route to the Super Bowl would be this: a home game against the Falcons, the Bucs, the Rams, the Packers, the Vikings, or the Commanders. A home game against the Eagles, the Rams, the Bucs, the Vikings, the Commanders, the Packers, or the Falcons. In this article's opinion, if the Lions get the 1 seed, their most likely path to the Super Bowl would be to beat either the Commanders or the Vikings and then the Eagles. If the Lions lose to the Vikings, I'm sorry, that was all if the Lions beat the Vikings, right? If the Lions lose to the Vikings, here's the route. Number 1, road game versus the Bucs, the Rams, or the Falcons. A road game against the Vikings, the Eagles, the Rams, or the Bucs. Or a road game against the Eagles, the Vikings, or home against the Commanders or the Packers. Let me back up here. The obvious disadvantage is that if they would have to win 3 games to get to the Super Bowl instead of 2, right? With not having the first round bye, which is a massive difference because every team in the NFC playoffs is capable of pulling off an upset right now. This is a very loaded conference. So if they pulled off that win, the Lions would hit the road again, to either play the Vikings, the Eagles, the Rams, or the Bucs. Assuming in the wild card round that the Lions would visit the number 4 seed, so either the Bucs, the Rams, or the Falcons. So if they survive the divisional round, the Lions would likely play a third straight road game against the Eagles or Vikings unless another wild card team made a Cinderella run, in which case the Lions would host that team for the divisional championship. To me, it's simple. If the Lions end up the 5th seed, we need some wild card teams to win. The minute that happens, the Lions are going to be able to host at least 1, if not 2 games. But we're going to throw all that out the window because the Lions are going to march back home to Ford Field this Sunday night, and they're going to take care of business, and they're going to end up the 1 seed. And we're all going to be able to relax a little bit. But let's not kid ourselves. This is a very tough conference. This is going to be an extremely difficult playoff scenario no matter who we face. Every single one of these teams will present a different argument to either our offense or our defense in a manner that they are accustomed to, because we have seen the Vikings or the Packers consistently 2 times a year over the last many decades, right? So they know us very well. Unfortunately, the Rams and the Bucs, well, they've kind of become divisional opponents over the last few seasons. This will be our 4th meeting with the Bucs and I believe our 4th meeting with the Rams in 2 years, in 2 seasons. We just played each of them again in the beginning of this year and then the previous season in the postseason. So, and then we also had the Bucs on the regular, season schedule last year. So this will not be easy. And you can see that we barely pulled out that 3rd game against the Rams, and we lost the 3rd game to the Bucs. Winning your 3rd game, going up against an opponent 3 times in a row, typically, the stats will tell you that that's a game you don't win as often as you lose. Lions just need to take care of business. It's that simple. All right, let me get into the chat for a minute here. The Trim Reaper says he just slapped the poop out of that like button. I appreciate it. I don't even know how many people we have in this morning. So we have about 120 odd people in this morning, 61 likes. Let's get these ads turned off for you guys this morning. Go ahead and continue to smash that like button. If you guys are new, I'm a little off today, man. I was on so many shows and doing so much recording yesterday. I'm just burned out today. But if you guys are new to the channel, I really appreciate you. We've had over 600 subscribers in the last 3 days. Can't say thank you enough for supporting the channel and being part of Rock Down Detroit Lions. If you're here and you are new and you haven't subscribed, I'm just going to ask you one question. Why? Why haven't you yet? Just get out of the chat, go and smash that subscribe button and be part of this epic season that we're having. But more importantly, yesterday, I was supposed to give away 1 mini helmet, right, during the live stream because we had 7,500 subscribers. It's not something that I normally do. I usually do a pop-up. But we had 2 people that kind of answered the question. And so I'm not just going to give away 1. I gave away 2 signed mini helmets to these people. So that's what we do here. We give back to the community. We give back to the Lions fans. We try to bridge that gap between you and the team and get you some cool, items from the Lions just by hanging out, just by being part of the channel, just by subscribing. You get an opportunity every 500 subscribers. And I'd say I'm probably the only channel that does that. Right? I don't see anybody else handing out hundreds or thousands of dollars a month in freebies. So we talked about the path to the Super Bowl. Let's talk about Sam LaPorta for a minute. Let's get into some Lions news. Now, Sam LaPorta is finally clicking at the right time. He had a sluggish start to this season. And he's battled some injuries all season, especially early. And according to Ben Johnson, Sam feels as healthiest as he has all season right now. And I think that we've kind of seen over the last couple of games that Sam is getting injected a little bit more and more into the game. And Ben mentioned that he didn't know why, things were not really clicking earlier in the season, but he's thankful that the ball is finding its way to Sam and he's having some good success right now in the passing game. And Ben still has high confidence and trust in Sam LaPorta, just as Jared Goff does, to be a very valuable piece to this offense, especially during the playoffs. Tight end position is used quite a bit in this scheme, and we're going to need it to come alive in this postseason. All right, let's see here. Crashing the Vikings site last night. So, yeah, I'm glad you guys came into Scoldgers and Spice last night. Way to step up and be part of that community. They do such a good job over there. We had great conversations after the show, and you get to learn a lot about people. But the one thing that I've learned is there's some really great fans of these NFL teams. And it dates all the way back to last summer when I was at the PFUFA event, which I'm so thankful to be there and to meet all of these great people. Because everything that happens outside of the game, not a lot of people know about. There's not a big light that is shed upon, what these fans do outside of just being fans of the game. But there is so much outreach and support, for foundations or charities and the fundraising events that they do. But last night, being a part of that community, there's a lot of great Minnesota Vikings fans. Yep, we're at each other's throats this week because we have a tough game, on Sunday night. But beyond that, their fans are great. And the people that host their channels are even better. So really, really good to be a part of, like you said, Peter, a classy and respectful group of people. All right, let's see. What's next? Injury reports. What happened yesterday? Okay. Yesterday, it was good for the Lions in many respects. Christian Mahogany, though, is sick. And this is a tough one because Mahogany has really stepped up big time. He's been utilized in some of the bigger formations that the Lions are bringing in, especially on third down. But he is sick right now. So yesterday he was a non-participant. Let's hope that he can get through this and get healthy as fast as possible. Same thing for Emmanuel Mosley, but honestly, he hasn't done anything for us all season. I'm not expecting that to change right now. David Montgomery is the only other non-participant still going through the knee rehab, and it's going to take a little bit to see him back, if at all, this season. Now, Alex Anzalone, full participant yesterday. So he got to get fully involved in the defense. Still question on whether or not he's going to be able to suit up on Sunday. And we do have a statement from Anzalone from yesterday about what he's thinking about right now. And, obviously what this game means and being part of this team again, especially at this late season push. But he's kind of weighing, the risks versus playing against the Vikings. I'll highlight some of this article here, but Anzalone said that obviously, quote, the doctors and the trainers, they go through what the risks are. Waiting a week, waiting 2 weeks, going through practice, maybe letting it spin next week or the week after that, or this week, Anzalone said. So I think that for me personally, I think it's like, okay, say if something did happen, would I be okay not playing in a Super Bowl? So I think that's kind of the decision I have to make in my own head. And is it worth it? Here would be my response. If I was Anzalone, obviously your health is more important, always. But if he's able to play, and if waiting a week or two doesn't change whether or not something happens, because, you could break the other arm, right? Anything could happen. But I guess for me, it's, are we even going to make it to the Super Bowl without him playing? That's the question. Now, I know that the defense, including Alex himself, has said that this defense is plenty good to make it to a Super Bowl and win. And I believe in that. I know that we have some holes, but I believe that we can get it done. As long as AG identifies that, we can't be so stingy with some of the schemes that we're in and play to our strengths and not put our guys in a disadvantage. But if this is Anzalone trying to evaluate on whether or not he wants to play this weekend, the question would be this. If you don't play and the Lions don't get the 1 seed, you're probably not going to make the Super Bowl, at least according to the stats. So then what? You're still not going to play in the Super Bowl, whether you suit up or you don't. So if you're able to play, if you're cleared to play, and you can protect yourself and play at a fast rate, play. I couldn't imagine being in this decision. Like, it would be really tough. I know that I would want to play versus not, but that's why, these trainers would have to protect me from me too. I'd want to be in there. Now, he went on to say this. It's a collaborative effort, talking about the trainers, the team, that they do a really good job in the training room. Our team docs, they don't really try to put us in crazy harm's way. Obviously, there are risks of playing with injury, coming back, but at the same time, they do a really good job of getting you ready and putting you out there to be prepared and when they feel comfortable. I think part of my voice and how I feel definitely goes into it, but that's really it. Obviously, we've suffered without Anzalone in the game, being part of this defense over the last several weeks. Jack has done a commendable job, but I think that we've seen a noticeable difference without Alex in the game. Somebody that has full control over the defense, puts these guys in the right situation at the right time. When Alex sees that there's something lacking, he knows where to be and how to get there, often taking on more responsibility than just his position. And at times, at least very early on in 21 and 22, that got us in trouble. But now when you have more confidence with the guys around you, he can tend to do that without putting the defense in a bad situation. What I really miss is him flying back and forth, sideline to sideline, making plays, because that's what Alex is really good at. It's undoubtedly unquestioned, I should say, that with Alex in the game, this defense is going to be head and shoulders better than where it has been, at least in the linebacker room. Lastly here, Aaron Glenn said this. He said, Alex brings a lot of vet experience back into the room. He's been talking about Jack Campbell, that he's been in the system, that he knows what, AG wants, and he's a great leader, great communicator, so it would be good to have him back. Obviously, we need to have him back. Anzalone said that how much more healing is there going to be in the next week or two? The safety of it, that's what goes into weighing what happens, which makes sense. And it's kind of what I just said a minute ago. What's really going to happen over the next week or two? If you're going to be the same now as you are going to be in 2 weeks, what changes? You've got a steel plate in there. Is it healed? Is it not? That's the question. And now you've got this carbon fiber forearm, which I haven't seen that yet. I don't know if there's been any pictures out on the internet yet of Alex's forearm. We need him back. We need Alex back on the field, but can we win without him this weekend? That's a big question. At least having him there and having him play a few snaps, I think would help. I really do. All right, Jameson Williams. Now, I don't know if Jameson Williams was taking a shot at Justin Jefferson or not. I'm going to read this to you, and you guys make up your own mind as far as what you think he was saying. But at the end of the day, Jameson Williams, I think he was more so talking about the growth that he's had under Ben Johnson. And he was trying to say that, right? And also speak a little bit about himself. But let me just share this with you, because I think it can go either way. And I really love what JMO's doing here. But JMO shared his thoughts on what makes Justin Jefferson such a dynamic threat at wide receiver. And when he was asked if there were aspects of Jefferson's game that he's adopted or modeled his own after, Williams acknowledged that Jefferson has some skills, but admitted he hasn't kept up with Jefferson as closely as he used to. Now, Jamo also shared his insights on what makes Jefferson such a dynamic weapon, while acknowledging, the undeniable talent of Justin Jefferson. He also admitted that, he wasn't able to follow him as much this season, which I kind of took it as a slight dig, if you know what I mean. Almost like Jamo was saying, yeah, I used to watch you, but now I think I'm getting to be as good as you. I don't need to watch you as much anymore. I can do my own thing. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe Jamo's trying to say I've arrived, and I don't really need to watch you as much. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But what I would say is you always want to watch your competition, right? You always want to have your eyes fixed on what they're doing, especially as an athlete, because as they're learning new tricks and they're showing their cards, you can take a few things. You always want to be a sponge, right? Soak in as much as you can. And I think Jamo's probably been doing that his whole life, especially, while playing football. But here's his quote when he was asked about Justin Jefferson and if he's modeled, his game or not. He says, yeah, I used to watch a lot of Justin Jefferson. I think he gets open really well. He's got really good routes, great feet, and ball tracking. A lot of that. But mainly, it's just the route type. Running his routes, that's cool to me. I don't really watch him like that no more. I ain't watched him a lot this year. He's a great receiver, though, for sure. It was that last part to me, right? He's a great receiver, though. Jamo has shown that maybe he's channeling his inner Jefferson this season. And what I mean by that is he's been able to achieve some great success, during what would be his first full season, almost first full season. But through 14 games, 10 starts, Jamo has 52 catches, 967 yards, and 7 touchdowns in the passing game. Now, Ben Johnson also gave Jamo a ton of praise for his progress this season and kind of gave us a better understanding that Jamo needed a better understanding of what the team, the coaching staff expected of him. Here's Ben's comment to the reporters the other day. He says, yeah, it's been a learning experience for everybody, I think. Since he got into the building here, it's been all of us coaches, Coach Dan Campbell, myself, Antoine Randall, all of us been on board trying to have him understand the expectation and what we really need and what Jared Goff needs and what the O-line needs and what we all need for this whole thing to work. It's taken a bit of time, but it's really taken off now at this point. He's very detailed. He's very smart, very, very smart. That might go unnoticed, but you say something to him and you coach him and it hits him. He understands it. I think because he's so smart, he's able to really grasp what we're trying to do. It's just a matter of getting him all the reps and all the looks, and he's been really good here in the second half of the season. Now, I sort of took this as, or maybe I found this as a little bit more profound, where Williams, backed Johnson's comments also and emphasized that he used this word evolution, right? This is the evolution of their relationship. Ben Johnson and Jamo and Jared and Jamo and the rest of the team, they've all evolved. That's exactly why I chose that word this season to describe the Detroit Lions. They've evolved over the last few seasons, as every team should. But you know what? Some teams don't. Some teams don't ever evolve. They go in the opposite direction. They regress. Now, he mentioned that Johnson has repeatedly stressed the importance of detail, right, in the Lions' offensive scheme. Knowing your details. And Jamo, in a word, acknowledged that he can no longer rely solely on his athletic ability. The fact that Jamo now recognizes that you can't just rely on the fact that you're a gazelle out there and you're fast. You have to be smart. You have to be savvy, right? You have to run clean routes. it's about time that JMO's starting to recognize these things, and he's going to really start to take off, even more so than he is already. So here's JMO's final quote that I'm going to share with this on this subject. He says, growing up in a little league, in high school, and even in some colleges, they just let you go out there and play football. Well, the details really are what take us further than the next team. It helps us in close games. Being on detail, just being in the right spot at the right time for your quarterback, lining up in the right spot, blocking the right man, things like that really matter. And it helps teams win NFL games. Like I said back in the day, you could just go out there and play football off skill and just the feel of the game. But as you get older and keep growing with the game, details really matter. Big shout out to JMO, man. He's finally getting it. And it's not to say that he hasn't been getting it. It's not to say that he hasn't been doing a good job, because he has. He's had some ebbs and flows to his career in Detroit so far. I mean, it's kind of been everywhere, up and down. All right, so what's on everybody's mind this morning? It's 9 o'clock. We're halfway through what is usually a typical show, but today might be a little bit short. We're going to have to run through some game prep today. I've got another show that I'm going to be doing, or supposed to be doing, around 1:30 today with another Viking on this channel. And then tonight, I plan on doing some tape review because we couldn't do it last night with the invite to the other show. So that's kind of the plan today. So I can't be on air for 9 hours again today. I just can't. I got too much stuff to do. So what's on everybody's mind today as far as what topics do you want to discuss for the rest of the show today? Yeah, Michael, I'll put the link out. It'll be on this show. It's not up yet. I still have to put up the thumbnail. John Desage says JMO's route running has improved drastically this season. I would agree. 1,000% I would agree. What I really love is like what Michael Garrett just highlighted too, is that JMO is a very good blocker. You know, he misses some blocks once in a while, but everybody does, right? It's the fact that he's out there trying. It's the fact that he's out there trying to put his body, you know, in front of somebody, you know, an opponent, to allow, you know, Jahmyr Gibbs or another receiver to have an opening. It's at least just doing it, you know, that has me excited about where his growth is going. This team is predicated on detail, like they just shared. And that detail includes blocking. It absolutely does. Peter says our wide receivers block better than the rest of the league. I don't know about the rest of the league, but I'll say that they're one of the best blocking units in the league. I mean, they're willing to do it. They do it, you know, week in and week out. Lauren McQuaig says the Lions are one of 4 teams in history to have a trio with 12 plus TDs: St. Brown, Sonic, and Knuckles. Is that 12 TDs in one season, Lauren? Must be. Bobu says no block, no rock. That's right. All right, so what Vikings weaknesses can the Lions exploit on Sunday? Well, that's a tough question. What weaknesses do they have? Maybe that's where we need to start. What weaknesses do they have? Let's take a look. I don't know if you want to call this a weakness, but I highlighted it yesterday too, that the Vikings blitz a lot. And the last, game, week 7, they blitzed a ton. And Jared Goff is one of the best against the blitz. He's one of the best at getting the ball out quick. And so if you want to define that as a weakness that we can utilize, or we can take their heavy blitz scheme and use it against them, that could be a weakness. The fact that they're going to blitz a ton in this game too, you just have to you have to find and develop a path of least resistance. How can you beat the blitz? What are the most successful routes that you can run or run plays that you can call that can beat the blitz? And part of that is Jared Goff identifying, where the blitz is coming from. And again, he's one of the best at deciphering defenses. He's really quick with it. And you have to have that. You have to have a brain in the NFL as a quarterback. Your brain is so twitchy. And what I mean by that is sharp, like fast. He's got to be quick with identifying what's going on. You only have seconds in this game, and it comes down to fractions of a second as you're trying to figure out where that ball is going to go after the snap. So again, utilizing the blitz against them, it could be a weakness if you know how to beat it. And I think that Ben Johnson can figure out how to beat it. So let me throw the stat at you. The Vikings defense blitzed Jared Goff on 55.2% of his dropbacks in week 7. That's the highest blitz rate that Jared Goff faced in a game at that point in the season. And Goff targeted Amon-Ra St. Brown on half of his routes run, which was 14 routes that game. So he targeted him on 7 routes against the blitz. And he completed all 7 for 105 yards and a touchdown. Now, on the season, Goff has recorded the 5th highest completion percentage, 69.9%, and averaged the 5th most yards per attempt at 9.3 against the blitz. So if you're going to blitz us, again, this is where you hit a quick JMO slant route, and he's gone. If you sent your linebackers, JMO's gone. You're not gonna catch him. Amon-Ra St. Brown is just so consistent that he'll sit down on a route and Jared Goff finds him. It may be 7 yards, it may be 10 yards, it may be 14 yards. But it is so consistent. That's a good question, Kevin. Kevin Barr says, does AG favor a too high safety look to keep the game in front of the secondary in a combination with more zone underneath? Would that help our line, especially Z Smith getting Darnold out of rhythm? So last week, it didn't appear that we got a ton of pressure on Purdy. When you're watching the game, it doesn't appear that way until you can actually go back and really watch it, right? So I think we had 20 pressures in the game. And in the second half, we had a ton of pressure on Purdy. This week, we're going to have to manufacture pressure a little bit differently. But I want to take a quick 30-second break, and then I want to come back and dig into that question a little bit more, because that is something that I think I discussed with you guys yesterday, too, about hopefully Aaron Glenn puts this defense, in more of a zone look with some man on the outside. But let's take a quick break to one of our other sponsors for the week.
The season is here, and you want the latest news and rumors on your Detroit Lions. Head to sportspider.com. That's sports, SPYDER.com, where you can get your Lions news and all your sports in one place. Man, this site is packed with your favorite podcasts, live news, articles from local writers, and insiders, all updating in real time. Not just the Lions, every major sports team, including MMA, UFC, and so much more. Don't want to waste time searching? Sign up for free. Create your ultimate sports news hub. You control what hits your feed at SportsSpider, your number one source for all your sports. Visit sportspider.com today, right after the show.
Okay, so let me get back to this question here on, what can the Lions do to limit, what the Vikings are going to do? So will they favor a too high safety look? I would hope so. I would really hope so, especially in a game where I believe your number one target for this defense, you have to slow down Justin Jefferson. Now, the Lions did a great job in the first matchup, and we spoke about this last night too, with Terry and Arnold kind of piping up and saying that this is a bad matchup for the Vikings against our defense, and we have really good cover corners and yada, yada, yada. But he's speaking the truth, because Justin Jefferson didn't have but 86 yards in that first game. I think Jordan Addison had like 66. And I think their third receiver might have had 50-ish. But Darnold was able to spread the ball around. And we're going to expect that again in this game. But you have to take one of them out. And I think the guy that you have to take out is Justin Jefferson. AG has done it before. He has to do it again, but how do you do it? You almost have to do it with a too high safety look. How else can you? I don't know. With a single high safety, you're either bringing another DB in and dropping them down on the line or in the box and shading Justin Jefferson. Man, I wish I had this whiteboard going. I just don't know of another way that you could really be effective at slowing down Justin Jefferson. So to use your question and try to put it into the framework of who's the guy that they really need to slow down, I think it starts with always having a safety or a second defender kind of cheating over to Justin Jefferson's area, wherever he is. They can't let Jefferson beat them with a big day or big plays. You're going to give up some plays. It's going to happen. But if you eliminate Jefferson from this game and force them to beat you with Addison or Naylor or Hawkinson to step up and make plays, I think that we have a better opportunity. Tight ends against this Lions defense have not done extremely well this season. I think the Lions are somewhere in the middle of the pack with tight end, yardage or production versus the defense. So mixing up the coverage between man and zone, I think, is going to be critical this week. But I would rather see them in a too high safety look and use a little bit of man and a little bit of zone on every play, and just identifying those zones that these guys need to stick in and make them responsible for an area. And if you can shut down that area and you do your job, the game starts to slow down a little bit. So it's a good question. I guess to answer it my own way, I hope so. I hope so. And Z Smith, some people have said that, Z has been a little bit underwhelming. I think he's been fine. I think he's done a good job. Give me 30 seconds here. Or 10 seconds. I got to let the pup out real quick. All right, let me get into the next question in here. So DJ had a remark there about Jared Goff against the blitz, saying that his weakness isn't the blitz. He's 75% against the blitz. So if they blitz, it's a bad look. Yeah. So the point there is, go ahead and blitz us. Jared Goff, he eats up the blitz. He's done a great job. Doesn't mean that he won't take a sack or maybe two in this game. I hope not. I hope he's getting the ball out quick. But blitzing Jared Goff has never been, I guess, a good answer to slow him down. It really hasn't. Let's see here. I don't see the Vikings blitzing as much since Monty isn't playing. I still think they blitz, Peter. I think they blitz just as much as they did. I don't know if Monty is the guy that would limit the Vikings. You still have Craig Reynolds back there. Jahmyr Gibbs can shake and bake out of that backfield and still catch passes on the bubble screens or whatever, and be just as elusive. I think that they're going to blitz just as much. Roger, Will, do you see us having who do I see having the biggest impact on the game on Sunday? Well, the Rocks Locks will come out on Sunday at some point. But if I were to say right now who's going to have the biggest impact offensively, Amon-Ra steps up in big games. I think that Amon-Ra is going to step up in this game. And I also think that JG is going to have a big game. Like, he's going to have to play as perfect as he can in this game to put us into a position to win, because it's going to be a shootout, I think. I think that this is going to be a game where it's going to go back and forth a little bit, and the Lions are going to have to figure out a way to get a stop or two or a turnover. Defensively, I need to wait and see if Alex is going to be in this game. But I think on the defensive side of the football, I think that this is a game, no matter what happens, that Jack Campbell is going to have to step up. Big time. He's going to have to step up. And Brian Branch is going to have to step up. Big time. At the end of the day, though, these guys cannot get trapped and suckered into doing post-whistle bullcrap. They're going to have to just let it go. And I know it's hard when your testosterone is high, and the ether is high, and you do something stupid. They have to figure out a way this weekend to not get those post-play 15-yard penalties. In this game, it'll kill us. It could be the difference between a win and a loss. So, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, you just can't do it this weekend. You can't. You just got to maintain. JMO, you just got to maintain a clear head this weekend. You have to. This is for all the marbles. Let's see here. John Desage says he's expecting some blitzes from our secondary. I think you're saying our secondary. I would agree. I think that's, part of AG's plan this weekend is if Ifeatu Melifonwu is probably going to get some blitzes. Branch is probably going to get some blitzes if Branch is up on the line. If he's not up on the line, that would probably mean we're in a too high safety. If he's up on the line or if he's down in the box, that means we're in single high safety. DB blitz works as long as they get the right jump, right? Sometimes when I see these guys blitz, they're not getting a good jump. I have to get the right jump. Lauren McQuaig, Anzalone is saying he'll play on Sunday. It's day-to-day, but it sounds positive. Yeah, we kind of recapped that a little bit. It's still up in the air. We just don't know. Jalen Reeves-Maben helped us coming back. Rusty start, but he played well later. Jalen was kind of a liability in that first game. I'm hoping he got all the cobwebs out. There it is, Peter. It says our linebackers have to stop biting on the play action. You know what's crazy is I've been saying that for the past few weeks, that when we watch these guys, they bite. And I finally heard the question asked yesterday in the media availability. One of, I don't know if it was Justin Rogers or who, finally asked about the guys biting on play action. And I don't know if we got the answer that we really wanted, but it is a problem. And I think it's just identifying what these guys are doing wrong. You just got to turn them around, man. You got to tell them something. You got to put them into a different situation. If they're going to bite that badly, I think AG's answer was he wants his guys to be aggressive on the line. I get it, but if you're overly aggressive, you're letting up big plays. Sometimes you just can't be overly aggressive. Sometimes it's okay to be, letting them be the aggressor. I mean, I couldn't tell you the terminology, but whether it's in, MMA or karate or, some of those other martial arts, sometimes it pays off to allow your opponent to be the aggressor. Some boxers go into a match playing defense versus offense. Same thing in MMA. Sometimes it's better to play defense versus offense. Your counters may be more impactful than your offense. So sometimes in a heavyweight matchup, you just want to literally play defense on defense. You let them be the aggressors. And you trap them and figure out a way to use it against them. It's the art of war, right? It's the art of war. Tracy, Turner is a liability to a degree. I believe so too. He's the one that bites the most. I'm hoping that if Alex is in this game, that means that we'll see less of Turner. Hopefully. Peter Van Laarhoven, Goff can get the ball out in 2.2 seconds. No one is getting there that fast. That is very true. And that's the thing that I've been saying about sacks, right? And pass rushing. It's an art form. But when you really break down what a pass rusher does or a blitzer does from any side of the defense, no one is going to get there in under 2 seconds. It's very rare for that to happen. Extremely rare for that to happen. Everything has to be perfect. Perfect jump off the snap, nobody blocking you, and you get to the quarterback. Very rare to see a sack under 2 seconds. Your average sack in the NFL is over 3 seconds. So what does that tell you? If Goff is getting the ball out on average 2.7 seconds per throw, and the average sack in the NFL is 3 seconds, How are you going to get a sack when you're always a quarter second behind? It's not going to happen. That's why Jared Goff doesn't take a whole lot of sacks. Same thing for Sam Darnold. The guy has a cannon for an arm, and he can get the ball out extremely quick. His release is fun to watch. I just hope it's not fun to watch on Sunday night. But I don't care who your pass rusher is. Take any of them in the league. It's extremely difficult to get a sack in this league in under 2.7 seconds. That's why, for me, I've never predicated what I would do on defense because of pass rush on the edge, right? It's always interior. And the reason why is, if you think about it, who's closer to the football? An interior defensive lineman or an edge rusher or a linebacker? Who's closer? Interior. They have to beat a guy just like they do on the outside. So instead of taking, the longer way to get there, you take the path of least resistance, which is through the middle. Make your edge rushers or your edge, play more contain, and then that gives you a better opportunity to close up the box and get a sack, or extend the play long enough with your secondary to get a sack. One Major Pain says, bullfight. Let the bull run past you when they aggressively attack you. That's an interesting take on that. Derek Lewis says, I dusted off a spot on my shelf for that mini helmet I'm going to win. There you go, Derek. There's a positive attitude. You just got to go up against the other 7,800 people. Josh Jackson says, let's hope. Well, you know what? I guess that's all to be said. They say that you can't win the lottery unless you play. Well, I finally played, so I got a Powerball ticket. I don't even know when it's drawn. It probably already drew, for all I know. Peter Van Larhoven says, we really need Decker to play his best game of the year. Taylor has struggled lately. So that's a great point. So earlier we had a question of who needs to step up in this game. There you go. It's got to be Taylor Decker. Penei Sewell is Penei Sewell. He's going to have a good game. Yeah, he may get beat once in a while, but it's typically late. Frank Ragnow, he's had his moments at times, but he's pretty solid. Zeiler's been good all year. Glasgow and Decker, I think both of those guys really need to step up on the offensive line this weekend. I'm hoping that Mahogany's good to go. Let's see. Yeah, if I win the Powerball, mini helmets for everyone. Yeah, there'd probably be more than mini helmets for everyone. It'd be game changing. Be able to do a lot of work in the Cancer Research Foundation. Jason, thing is, we have way more talent than a regular fifth seed. Yeah, it's crazy. Ed O'Neill, Will, if you could pick one player to play out of their minds that isn't Goff, who would you pick? Man, that's tough. But honestly, I'm gonna have to go with. If Amik Robertson is on the outside, which I'm expecting he's going to be, I think Terrion Arnold's going to do a good job as long as he doesn't commit a bunch of penalties, which I don't think he will. But I need Amik to play out of his mind. He's going to have a tough assignment, very tough assignment with Jordan Addison and or Jefferson. It depends on if these guys are going to be trailing, or traveling, or if they're going to, have an assignment that is you're on Jefferson, you're on Addison, to say it another way, or if they're just going to take one side of the field. But I think that our Amik Robertson needs to play out of his damn mind this weekend defensively, because that's who we need to hold down. I don't think that Aaron Jones is going to be that impactful in this game. If he has more than 65 yards in this game, I would be really surprised. So it's Amik for me. Kirby's going to do Kirby things. Brian is going to do Brian things. Terrion's been pretty solid. I think that there's been a lot of confusion on the back end that has caused some of these bigger plays to happen. But it's Amik Robertson for me that has to step up. He's been playing great. It's not to say that he hasn't been playing great. It's just we really need his best game on Sunday. Any concerns with our secondary? We going to see more man or zone? I think that we're going to see a little bit more zone this weekend, but I don't think that you're going to see a ton of zone with our right and left corner. I think that you're going to have man up corners with a little bit of under zone front going on here. Hold on. Let me give you an idea. Okay, so hybrid coverage, I guess, is what you would call it, right? A big nickel package, probably emerging as one of the hottest defensive trends in the NFL right now. But a hybrid zone coverage, if the nickel back will follow closely, will closely follow their assigned receiver, like in man coverage, while the other defensive backs will read the quarterback's eyes and cover their designated zones. So you have zone, where the outside corners are reading the quarterback's eyes, and they're sitting down in their zones, whatever those zones are, and then the nickel will travel with their assignment. Now flip it. Go the other way. Right and left corner will man up on Jordan and Justin. And then your nickel back is going to read the quarterback's eyes and kind of float that underneath zone. And then you got your two safeties over top, one of them cheating to Justin, and hopefully someone getting in on Sam Darnold. You can't commit everybody. You're going to have to leave some guys in zone. You have to against this team. It requires really good communication. That's the drawback. These guys have to know exactly what, the other is doing. But that's what I would be running. I would be running some sort of a hybrid zone man scheme. 2 linebacker sets, absolutely. And see, that's what I was saying the other day is I'd rather see more 5 DB sets, even 6 DB sets. If we're not going to rush the quarterback, and if we're not really worried about the run game, like what's the worst that can happen? If you put in, 3 down linemen, which I don't think we've done all season, and you go to like a 3-2-6 dime package, but you drop 2 guys down in the box, and you bring in 3 safeties, 3 corners, 2 linebackers, and then your best 3 defensive linemen, you can still shut down the run. It's just you're going to have to use Efetu Melifonwu and Brian Branch down in the box to shut down the run. Or you could send one of them in against Sam Darnold on obvious passing downs. But I think to be a little bit more realistic, it's probably going to be a 4-2-5 more often in the nickel package. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can still go 4-2-5 with 3 safeties. You could have Iffy, Kirby, and Brian in there with Amik and Tarian. And send Brian or send, somebody in on Darnold, but you can still stop the run. Absolutely. I don't know. There's too many options, man. I would rather see our best 2 linebackers in the game. When you look at it from that perspective, if your base defense is a 4-3, which means you're always going to have 3 linebackers in the game, but your third linebacker is struggling, why have him in the game? Why not put a DB in the game that is probably playing better? Yeah, you're sacrificing, 30 pounds? Maybe 35 pounds? But you're gaining better coverage ability. You're gaining speed. You still have good tacklers. I would much rather see Brian Branch drop down as like that third linebacker and give us all that flexibility. That's exactly how I would use Brian. I would take him out of the back, out of the back of the secondary this weekend a couple of times. Put him in a unique situation where the Vikings are going to be like, what is this? What is Brian doing down here? That's what I would do. I would mix it up big time. It's exactly what the Vikings do. Rush 8, drop 8. Let's see. That's why we need a great backer play in the intermediate zone. Yeah, absolutely. We need to get a linebacker next year. I hate to say it, but I think the Lions need to take a linebacker early. Trey says Amika's great at punching the ball out. He's been great all season. These guys really do a great job punching the ball out. or at least attempting to. Let's see. Lauren McQuaig says, I see us running plenty of screens, good against the blitz, and our wide receivers should have excellent numbers. Vikings have a much improved linebacker core, but Gibbs will still get outside on them. You know, early in the preseason when I did my unbiased reviews, I said that the Vikings were going to have the best linebacker core if the Lions couldn't stay healthy. And they do. And you're right. I mean, when I've been calling for screens and to utilize a screen, that also defeats a blitz. So it is a very good point, Lauren. We need to see some screens this weekend. Bobu says Anzo, Captain Jack, Iffy, BB, and KJ. Yeah, I think you need to add Tarian and Amik to that too. That'd be a good backfield. Snowing like crazy, says Josh Jackson. Huge flakes. Where you at, Josh? We got a little bit of snow last night. All right, so any final questions that I'm going to get off for the day, get on with life today, and figure out what's going on for this afternoon interview that we're going to have with one of the Vikings super fans. Oh, interesting. Wonder what Brian Flores thinks about his decision to fire Ben Johnson when he took over Miami. I didn't even know that happened. I had no idea that happened, Brent. That's the first I've ever heard of that. No clue. I'll leave you with this. So the Vikings defense, they blitzed on a league high this season, 45.7% of early down dropbacks and 4.1% higher than the next closest team, which is the Bucs. So despite the high blitz rate, the Vikings have generated a pressure rate of just 37.9%, slightly above the league average. On third downs, the Vikings blitz on just 31% of dropbacks, making them one of just 4 teams to blitz more on early downs than on third down. So talking about screens, talking about what can we do, to utilize their aggression against them, that's exactly where I would input the quick hitters, get out the ball quick, but also utilize the screen game. Jahmyr Gibbs in the screen game, or even, floating Jameson Williams over the middle, both of those balls can go to the house. So I'd love to see the Lions get into an opportunity this weekend where they can use the aggression against the Vikings. And they need to get Jahmyr the ball in the screen game more often. The dude is so electric. All right, so that's it. We're going to get into more later on today and tonight. I appreciate you guys joining me this morning, but I am absolutely beat, and I got to get some rest in and some prep in for this next show. So you guys have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you guys on Sunday if you're going to the game. There is tickets available still on Ticketmaster and other sources. Standing room only is right around $500 right now, which is crazy, and that's with fees. But this is not a game to miss, man. We're gonna take it all. It's going to be 1 seed or no seed, or 1 seed or 5 seed. I got a little surprised though. I want to play you guys this song. I've been working on a new song for the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It's not fully ready, but I'll at least play it for you guys on the way out, and we'll get back at this later on today. So you guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you back here in a little bit. A little bit of Motown. Oh, you know I am.
Tune in, feel the energy ignite. Rise and grind, take flight. Hey, feel the unity, the proud's electrified. Under the stadium lights, religious thrive. Every touchdown with close to clock west. In Detroit we stand. Get down there. Rise and grind, Detroit's calling out. Football dreams in every shop.